Hi everybody, in this section we are going to be discussing items, your item list. Okay, so your item list is what links your charges on your invoices to the chart of accounts. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here. So when we create, the way that we're going to bill tenants, the way that we're going to show them what they owe, and the way that we're going to apply money to a charge is we're going to do that through the use of an invoice. So again, we'll get into how to create an invoice and how to use those later, but this is an example of an invoice that I have set up. And Jim Stanton here, it lives at 2501 East Jasper, and the product or service here, and this is the item, is rent. And so the way we set this up is I classify the address and what it is, but what we're going to do here is this is an item. And so when we put this on here, it comes up with a description and it has the automatic rate that it is. So the $12.95 is linked to this description. So that way when we bill him rent, we always get the rent right. We don't mess it up. So when that is linked, this item list is then linked to the chart of accounts ledger of rental income right here, so that when we pull a property report, it then is reflected as rent received. So the items are important because that's what we need to do to make sure that we get the charges right. So in order to get to the item list, we're going to go to the gear icon. We're going to go to, we can do products and services, I believe. You can also do all lists, but products and services, that's one way to do it. Or we're just in sales. And next to invoices and tenants, you're also going to do your products and services here. So there's some different things that we need to do here. We need to have some charges set up, and what I'm going to do is I will have in the resource section a list that you can import of all the standard things. So let me go over some of the common ones here. Application fee, late fees, non-sufficient fund fees, renter's insurance, if you're charging back renter's insurance, any reimbursed services or utilities. So if they're responsible for utilities, but for some reason you get a bill in your name, they get shut off, it gets reverted to the owner, and they owe you money for that, then that would be an example of this. Convenience fees, damages. So they damage something, you get it fixed, then you charge them back to the tenant ledger. You'd put it under or damages for maintenance here. Reimburse move-out expenses. So all your move-out expenses, whether you have to clean, paint, maintenance, would all be classified under this item. Let's see here. I'll get into the rental income and expenses here in a moment. Okay, so rental income, what I like to do is I like to set these up per property. And again, the reason being is because when you set these up per property, then you can assign what it is. So the way I set up a item for actually let's just start a new one. The way I set up an item is when they move in, I will come into QuickBooks. I set up, if the property is not already set up, I'll set up the property, I'll set up the tenant, and then I will set up their new rent. Or if the rent hasn't changed from the last time, you can do that, or you can just go in and edit it as well. But I would just create a new one. So you go in here and you're going to pick a service category for your item, and then you're going to put the address in here, and let's do... And then no skew. I don't really use categories. It's just another way to drill down if you want to, but I haven't found much use getting this much detail out of it. I can get everything I need out of the report, so I usually leave that blank. Class, if you're going to use a class, you can just assign the class right here. Actually, let's use 800 Main Street number 1 since that's already set up in there. So that'll be one of the apartments. Description, rent. Now this is where you would link, let's say this is a $500 unit. Okay, so now the $500 is linked to that address. And then remember how I told you we link this to the chart of accounts? You would select from your income account here. You can just type it in rent. I know the number is 41100, but just to show you, you can type in rent and it'll pull up everything that has that description in there. And then this will stay blank, and then you save and close. And so now under, whoops, what did I do? Oh, I stand corrected. Category will classify them within here. So yeah, I do want to use this. I want to use rental income and save and close. And so what that's going to do is put you in your rental income category. Looks like I didn't do that with a few of these others, but that's okay. So here now is your 800 Main Street #1 rent. And then if we go in and create an invoice, and we'll skip all this other stuff, but let's just say this is your tenant for the month, and all their information gets in here, their due date, and then your product or service. You know that this is going to be for your 800 building, and there it is, 800 #1. Whoops. $800 #1, rent pops up, quantity of 1, the rent rate's $500, so that's in there. And then if you're using a class, you can, you know, whoops, let's go 800, there you go. And you can classify it this way. And this will be your rental invoice that gets sent to the customer. Now, some other things we can do here just to show you how this works is if you're not doing rent, and let's say that you collected some money that you need to account for from a tenant here or even an applicant. Let's just say it's Jim Stanton. We can use any of these things here. Those are the rents, but let's say that we're going to charge him a convenience fee that we know he's going to pay, and we know that it's 2.9%. So that's $14.50. So that's one way we can charge the convenience fee. You know, if there's an applicant, you got your application fee, and this has 0 here. But again, if you go back into here, if you know your application fee is $50, set your rate at $50. That way, every time the application fee comes up, it's $50. And so there's a series of different things here that you can use. And this is how we charge the tenant ledger. And then when we receive a payment, when this person pays this bills, then of course you apply it to this invoice, and that's how you receive a payment. But again, we're going to get into the actual step-by-steps on how to work through the different processes a little bit later. But again, I just wanted to see you to see how these items are used. So again, let's just go back over products and services, and you can kind of see all the different things I have set up here. And again, I am going to have a resource for you that has these common ones already placed in there. This is where you also set up your security deposits, which we'll get into later. Just to follow up on an application fee, just to show you, if you know your application fees are $40, then you can just put $40, and then every time you enter that on your invoice, $40 automatically pop up. Now you can change that on the invoice. When you do the invoice, if it automatically pops up and you're going to charge them $50 this time, you can change that to $50 on the invoice. So don't worry about, this is just going to be your default that it pops up on. Now, just real quick before I let you go out of this section, again, you're going to have your Excel import sheet there with some of these lists. Just like the chart of accounts, you're going to go in here and select this little drop-down arrow, select import. You're going to locate your Excel or CSV file. And again, this is going to be, I don't have one set up yet, but you'll select the file that you want on there, and then it's just going to go you're going to match this up, and this will match up straight across for you when it's all said and done. I'm going to download this template and put these over in it so it works out for you. And then you'll hit next and you'll import those. And then when you are done importing, you won't have, I'm not going to put the individual address rent stuff in there because that needs to be set up per property, but I'm going to have your application fees and all this standard type items set up to where you can just go in and edit them to fit your needs. Okay, so that's what I have for the items section. We will see you in the next lesson.